Welcome into the NESN Bets Kickoff show here in the PNC studio. Travis Thomas with the legend, the best sports bettor this side of the River Charles, Claudia Bellafato. Claude, give yourself a round of applause.
I don't know if I should be doing that because this slate just ruined me. The next time I try to bet anything related to the Giants or Panthers offense, please take my phone and smash it. All of the research I do, all of the stats, Thielen, I talked about it, doubled the targets of every receiver. He has one look in the first half. What is going on? Man, this early slate was not good to me. But we move on.
Let me redo the intro. Travis Thomas here with Claudia Bellafato. Her bets ain't worth a damn.
Hey, but this is what's so frustrating about betting, right? I swept 1 week. The week after, I just missed one, went 6-1. You have the same exact process.
I know.
And that's just the parity of the league. You any given Sunday, every single Sunday, we see that is the case. So it's brutal, but you got to stick to your methods because in the end, it all comes out in the wash.
These are the breaks, kid. All right, let's talk about Sunday Night Football and see if you have better luck with this one. Bills, Bengals, in the jungle. Bengals favored by 1.5 here. I know the line has moved a bit in this game since it opened. We'll talk about that. Total, 50.5. High total here, Claudia Bellafato. Break it on down for us.
Yeah, so you talked about that line being 1.5. That's actually where it opened. Now it's come back down, settled back down to 1.5, but we saw some Bengals money up to 2.5. And of course, money's always going to come back and forth, especially when it's under that key number of 3. So that's what we've seen. As far as the total goes, it opened 46.5 and got bet all the way up to 50.5, like you said. So lots of over money on this game, which is not surprising. The Bengals finally, Joey B, healthy. The offense has been clicking. We know what this Bills offense is able to do as well. So I liked the over 46.5 a lot. Do I want to chase the number? Not necessarily, but I think this will be a good prop game. Hopefully these are two offenses that you actually can trust.
No doubt about it. I wonder how much of last season, remember that game was postponed, we all know what happened. How much of that experience from last season with us not really seeing these two teams play that game out is baked into the line, either from the books side of things, Claudia, or maybe from the bettors like us? Is that game that was postponed top of mind for us? I mean, we really couldn't take much from it, obviously.
Yeah, I think always people are going to take what they saw last season, despite it being, week 9 now. We still aren't completely sure what to expect from this Bills offense, and we know that they're dealing with some injuries on defense. The Bengals just started looking like they did last season, so I think you're totally right. People are going to take into account what they saw last season, a little bit that they could, and I think that is reflected in, like I said, this line movement, because the Bills were the opening favorites, 1.5, and I talked about that swinging all the way through to the Bengals high as 2.5. And that's why we saw that money come back and forth, because people are trying to piece together what they've seen over this, these first 9 weeks and then that little bit of last season. But definitely that's been taken into account.
I'm the first one to admit when I bet a game, I tell you my favorite play, whether it's a prop side, total, whatevs. But I'm also the first to admit when I don't personally bet a game, this is one I'm staying away from. However, you said something when we started here that I want to go back to. You said these are two offenses that we trust. Even though we're not sure which Bills offense will show up, there's still that intrinsic trust for them. I say that to say I lean the over, Claudia, 50.5. And I think because of how they've been playing lately, I think I lean Bengals here and laying the points. You say what to both?
Yeah, I think to be more specific, because I said the Bills haven't been super consistent and the Bengals just started looking like themselves, we can trust them in a way we can't with teams like the Panthers and Giants when it comes to the star players, the talent of the quarterbacks. We know what Diggs and Allen can do together. We know what Jamar Chase and Burrow can do, because even when the offenses weren't full throttle this season, those connections were always there, and that's something that I shouldn't have bought so high into when it comes to the Giants and these Panther squads. But these are two offenses that we know over the last 3 years that to some extent we can trust. So yeah, like I said earlier, I definitely agree with the market movement on the over, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does cash that 51 or more. I just don't want to chase the number.
Yeah, I can already tell with you. I mean, I've watched some games with you. You're the type that stew You stew over when you don't hit a bet, where I just cuss. And the obscenities and the filth that comes out of my mouth makes me feel better, and then I'm on to the next. But you just stew when you don't hit your bets. I already know how it is, Claude.
I stew, and I be very cautious too when it comes to a week like this, where I said on the Ultimate Betting Show these lines were very tight. I did not want to force any side. Yeah. I came out with 3 plays, one of which I'll talk about now with Jamar Chase in a second. And those 2, Barkley was a player that I thought I could trust. Game script just didn't necessarily work in that favor, right? The yards were there, but had I looked back and said, I don't think that they're going to get a lead enough to be able to run the ball, I probably would have shied away from that. I will stick to the Thielen, though, because the targets were there for him, so I don't feel too bad about that. But when it comes to week 9 bets, don't feel like you need to chase anything. If you don't like the slate, like you said, you don't love a side here, you don't have to bet it, because there's always week 10 up until 17.
Okay, you say don't chase anything in one breath, but in the other, I know you like a Jamar Chase prop. I got a ton of what's a better bet questions for you. Before we get there, give me your favorite prop in tonight's game.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about Chase versus Diggs, but I think Chase really would be my number 1 when it comes to his receiving yards, set at 87.5. You can see on the board now. A lot of this is the connection I talked about. 3rd most red zone targets of all receivers. The targets in general are there, so I do like anytime touchdown for him as well. But the matchup, Buffalo bottom 5 against the number 1 wide receiver when it comes to DVOA. He's averaging almost 120 receiving yards over the last 5. It all goes back to that consistency between him and Burrow. But Buffalo being weaker against the number 1 wide receiver through 9 weeks makes me feel a lot better about this one. So I would say Chase, he's 7-11. He's always open. I'd go over on receiving yards for him.
I like that. I mean, Claudia's telling you Jamar Chase is a better bet, over 87.5 receiving yards than Stephon Diggs, over 85.5 receiving yards. No argument from me, but I will say this. There's a world in which you can bet both. I mean, listen, both of these guys are box office. We understand the stage tonight, of course. I would take Stephon Diggs over as well, 85.5.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let's go to the QBs. I mean, they're the stars of the show. Would you go over 272.5 for Josh Allen passing yards, or over 276.5 for Joe B?
Well, the numbers are really telling here. And of course, this also reflects game script wise. The spread's not big, not a huge difference in numbers, which hasn't been the case with a lot of the games on the slate today. I'm torn on this one. Both defenses around top 10 in terms of pass DVOA. Joe Burrow has just excited me a lot in him finally looking healthy, but this number of 276.5, he's only cashed that twice. So the consistency for Allen has been there more so. We've seen him put up 300 plus yard games. He's gone over his yardage number in 4 total. So I think I lean Allen here. And quickly, speaking of Allen throwing the ball, Diggs, you are 100% right. I genuinely don't think you can go wrong when it comes between Diggs and Chase. Yeah. Diggs lead the leagues in targets. He didn't cash his number of 85.5 in the last 2, but again, we saw 100 plus in 5 of the 6 before that. So I don't think you can go wrong between Diggs or Chase, but with that means Allen likely gets over his yardage as well, with that connection being consistent.
No doubt. I'm going to go Burrow here. I mean, I'm leaning Bengals anyway, so obviously I'm thinking Joe outplays Josh Allen. But the other thing is, you always have to think about Josh Allen, the dual threat quarterback, and a lot of it depends on what the defense gives him. I mean, if the run is there for him, he'll take it. So because of that, I think it negates the passing sometimes. So in this case, I'll go Burrow. All right, last one for you. Gabe Davis, over 44.5 receiving yards, or T. Higgins, over 54.5 receiving yards. Which way are you going there?
Honestly, because I like Diggs and Chase so much, it makes me not really want to touch the number 2 guys.
Yeah.
Davis has cashed his prop in about half of the games. T. Higgins cashed just twice. Because I like Chase a lot, I'd maybe look to Davis, because the Bengals are actually one of the better teams against the number 1 wide receiver. So if they're able to limit Diggs at all, then Gabe Davis is probably going to get those looks. More so, I would say, than Higgins.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you, too. I'm going Gabe Davis here. I mean, one thing, and first of all, both number 1 threats, you're right, should get the shine tonight. and they're going to be eating. We both like over on their props, obviously. But I'll go Gabe Davis here because in big games, for whatever reason, I mean, this guy shows up and shows out. Josh Allen trusts him. Now, in every other game that's just, if it's a 1 o'clock Sunday game, I mean, he'll drop everything. You know what I mean? He's got the drops. He's all over the place. But in big games like this, the guy, you can't deny it. He steps up. He makes big-time plays. So I'm going Gabe Davis here as well. Sounds like we both like a high-scoring game here, Claudia, with a lot of fireworks, a lot of great elite quarterback play. We are all obviously sensitive as to what happened last season. But the fact remains, we were robbed of a great game. I think we get it tonight, Claudes.
Yeah, I think we get it tonight as well. And keep in mind, you can always live bet because you're not really getting much of an edge when it comes to the original spread. Say the Bengals come out hot and they score first, you're going to get the Bills at a much better price with some more plus money, or the opposite way, because I genuinely think this could come down to a field goal. So if I get a field goal or more within the first half, then I'm probably going to take it. Just something to keep in mind when it comes to live betting.
All right, check us out tomorrow on NESN at 1 p.m. on Lunchline and at 5:30 for the Ultimate Betting Show. For Travis Thomas, Claudia Bellafato, this has been NESN Bets Kickoff. Enjoy the game. Peace.